b equal? -1. Which one equals -1? 7 and -8. So I will do plus 7a minus 8a. Once you're here, we're going to group. So that's the third thing you're going to do. Boom, boom. Okay, my GCF of my first group is a. I'm going to walk through this one, please. And I divide, I get a plus 7. Now, listen, please let me talk through this one. You take your last term, which is -56, you divide by 7. That's how you get your number here. You divide them. -8a divided by -8 is a. -56 divided by -8 is 7. This still has to equal 0. It's good because my parentheses are the same. So my next step will be to write a minus 8 times a plus 7, and it still equals 0. From here, I'm going to erase this. Hopefully you guys have a little bit more room. I didn't have enough. I'm going to erase this. I'm going to set both equations equal to 0. So if I have a minus 8 equals 0, I have to add 8 to both sides. So a equals 8. If I have a plus 7 equals 0, I would have to subtract 7 from both sides. So a would be -7. So my answers are 8 and -7. Yes, sir. You can do the squiggle if you want. It cannot be a parenthesis. Cannot be a parenthesis. Okay? We are going to do the next one. So I have n squared equals 8 plus 2n. I need my equation to equal what? 0. So what do I need to move over? What? No. You never want your leading coefficient to be negative. You need to move the 8 and the 2n. So how am I going to move both of them? Subtract them. So I'm going to have n squared minus 2n minus 8 equals 0. Okay, that was my first step. What was my second step from above? Bring down the first, bring down the last, set equal to 0. What did I immediately do after that? I multiplied two numbers, right? My A and my C. My A is what? 1. My C is what? -8. 1 times -8 is -8. What's up, buddy?
Why'd you flip the sign?
Because I need to bring them over to the left side of the equation. Okay? So my factors are 1 and 8 and 2 and 4. Okay? I listed out my factors. Is negative, is that 8 positive or negative? Negative. So now you look at B. Is B positive or negative? Negative. So what does that mean? My bigger number has to be what? Negative. My smaller number has to be what? Positive. So which one is it going to be? Plus 2 and -4, correct? So I'm going to have plus 2n minus 4n equals 8. I'm going to erase this so I have more room. Okay? Now I do what? Now I group. GCF of my first group. N. Factored out or divided. N squared divided by n. N. Positive 2n divided by n. Plus 2. Coop's trick. Coop's trick. -8 divided by the number I just pulled out. So -8 divided by 2. -4. Now I got to divide it again. -4n divided by -4. N. -8 divided by -4. Positive 2, and it has to equal what? 0. Am I in a good spot? Why? Parentheses are the same. So I'm going to have n minus 4 times n plus 2, and I set that equal to 0. Am I finished? No, I need to do what? Set both of them equal to 0, yes? So I have n minus 4 equals 0. What do I need to do? Add 4, so n equals 4. I have n plus 2 equals 0. What do I need to do? Subtract 2, so n equals -2. I'm completely content tomorrow if you leave it just like that on your review, on your quiz. Okay? No, your quiz is on paper tomorrow. Okay? It's not a big deal. It's still a question that I can answer. All right, go to the next one. Square roots. Should be right there on top, right? Square roots. This is your key for square roots. You're going to have 2 terms. You're going to have 2 terms. You're not going to have a b value. So when you want to take the square roots, you want to write, that's what you want to see. You have 2 terms. Now, this one is not going to equal 0. What you want to do is you want to get your square term. Don't fall asleep. You want to get your square term by itself. That's what you need to write down. You need to get your square term by itself. Square term by itself. That's what you need to write down. It's a key thing. Square term by itself. So on the first example, p squared is my square term. Okay? 16 is attached to the p squared. It's multiplying. So what I will do is I will divide by 16 on both sides. The 16s will then cancel, so I now have p squared equals 25 over 16. Nothing else attached to the p, so we're good to go. I need to get that squared gone. So to get that squared gone, I'm going to take the square root of both sides. Remember, when you write the square root, you have to also write the plus or minus symbol down. Do not forget that tomorrow. That will be important. The square and the square root cancel. P comes down, equals, plus or minus comes down. Now, am I going to allow you to use your calculator? Yeah, so if you put in second squared, parentheses 25 divided by 16, and then you hit enter, and if it's a decimal, we don't want a decimal, we change the fraction to math, enter, enter, you're going to see your answers 5/4. Am I done? Why not? Is p by itself? Am I done? Yes, you are. Okay? All right. Next one we're doing together. What did I say you have to get by itself? The square term, right? What's attached to the square term right now? The 5. So how do I move the 5? You're going to subtract 5 from both sides. So when I subtract 5 from both sides, I get x squared equals -2. Is there anything else attached to the square? Is there anything else attached to the squared? No, so we're good. So what am I going to do? I'm going to take the square root of both sides. Do not forget that plus or minus symbol. That's going to be important. What happens with the squared and the square root? They cancel. What happens when you take the square root of -2? Your calculator says, gross, right? You cannot take the square root of a negative number. So what is the answer to this? Nope. This is going to be this. That is going to be no solution. Okay? You can never take the square root of a negative number. If that happens, you're going to write no solution. Square roots you guys should be pretty good on. I think you guys probably like those the most. Okay? We ready to flip it over? Sorry, the copies are all funky. Completing the square. This is the one that there's steps and you got to follow them. Okay? You want to make sure your B is even. That's what we talked about 2 days ago. You also want to make sure your variables are on one side, everything else is on the other. That's your key for this one. Variables on one side, everything else on the other. Completely fine if you keep your variables on the left, numbers on the right. That's usually what I will do. Variables on the left, numbers on the right. So I'm going to walk through this one. We're going to listen. My variables are v squared and 2v. So I'm going to keep those on the left side. So I have v squared plus 2v equals, I need to move that -20 over. So I'm going to add 20 to the other side. Step 1. Step 2. This is where you put your blank space in. So I have v squared plus 2v plus blank equals 20 plus blank. As soon as you write that blank space, the reason I use the word blank, what letter am I doing? What am I working with after this? B. B goes with blank. That's the reason I don't call it an open space. Called a blank space for a reason. I need to figure out what my B is. B is 2. As soon as you find B, I'm going to divide B by 2. That would be 1. Then I need to square B divided by 2, which is still 1. That B squared term has to go into the blank spaces. Okay? Once you have it all filled out, that's when we're going to start to factor. It should be parentheses, space, parentheses squared equals a number. You will add whatever you have on the right side. In this case, it's 21. Your variable will always come down here, so this is V. What goes in with your variable is always B over 2, so that's going to be a plus 1. Now from here, this looks like the ones we just did, correct? We're going to take the square root of both sides. Plus or minus the square root of 21. Please stop. Square root and square root cancel. V plus 1 comes down, equals plus or minus the square root of 21. Now, that's when you go through it in your calculator. Square root of 21 is definitely an ugly number. So does it anywhere say any decimals on there? No. Will it possibly? Yes. Where are you going to find those? In the directions you're going to have to read. This one doesn't have any, so I'm going to leave that. But I want to get V by itself. The V has this plus 1, so I need to subtract 1 from both sides. And remember, Coop would always suggest you put it in front of that plus or minus symbol. Have I finished this problem? Yes, the V is by itself. Yes, the V is by itself. Just like that. Okay? All right, let's walk me through the next one. First step, do I need to move anything? No, fabulous. Second step, what am I immediately going to do? Add your spaces. So I'm going to have r squared plus 4r plus blank equals 11 plus blank. Okay. Yep. B is 4. B divided by 2 is, and B divided by 2 squared is 4. You can do all that with your calculator tomorrow. It's completely fine. Okay. What goes into my blank space? The 4. But make sure you know what it is. It's not the B. It's always the B squared. Okay? So 4 is going to come here, and a 4 is going to come there. Okay? I filled in my blank spaces, so I need to do what now? Factor it. So I'm going to do parentheses squared equals a number. What is my number? 15, right? Okay. What goes in this first spot right here? R. What goes with it? Why is it a 2? Because it's my B divided by 2. So I need to do plus 2. All right. Now this looks like a square root problem. Yes? I'm going to take the square root of both sides. So I have the square root of r plus 2 squared equals plus or minus the square root of 15. What happens with the square and the square root? Cancel. So r plus 2 comes down equals plus or minus what? Square root of 15. Why? It's gross. And why do I subtract 2 over? You got to get r by itself. Where would Coop suggest you put the negative 2? In front. So r equals negative 2 plus or minus the square root of 15. When you complete this square in Algebra 2, they might not tell you to do that. You should always do that. Okay? That's completing the square. We good on that one? Are we good on that one?
Yeah.
Here we go. Last one that we are going to solve is quad form. Yes, sir. Okay. Quad form. Here we go. First thing, you want your equation to equal 0. Okay? After that, your next step is to find A, B, and C. So A is always goes with the squared term. So in this case, A is 2. Please hold on. B is negative 5. and C is 3. I know, I'm glad that you guys want to talk, but give me a second. I'll make sure everybody hears me. Okay? A is your squared, B is your variable that's just the linear, so it's just the n or the x, and C is your number by itself. Immediate what you do, you'll write x equals. You will write a big fraction bar. This is where that formula comes into place. It's going to be on the board, but if you don't know how to use it, it's not going to go very well. You will put a negative sign and you will put a parenthesis, and your b value will go in that parenthesis. You will then write a plus or minus sign and a big square root. From here, you'll do parenthesis, your b value squared, minus 4, parenthesis a, parenthesis c, all over 2, parenthesis a, which is 2 in this case. Okay. From here, it is 90% calculator work from here. You will bring down the negative and the negative 5, plus or, oops, that's not enough space, plus or minus, write down the square root. This is where you put that into your calculator. So here we go, parenthesis, negative 5, close it, square, minus 4, parenthesis 2, parenthesis 3, enter.
I'm writing it in steps.
I hear you. So you should get 1 over 4 because I'm going to multiply the a and the c. Now from here, the opposite of negative 5. It's negative 1 times negative 5, so that's a positive 5, plus or minus the square root of 1, which is 1, over 4. Now I need to get my two answers. I'm going to do 5 plus 1, which is 6 over 4. I'm going to do 5 minus 1, which is 4 over 4. And then I need to simplify. If you put 6 over 4 in your calculator, you're going to get 3 halves. If you put 4 over 4 in your calculator, you are going to get 1. Okay? Do you want me to do another one to make sure we got this? Okay, here we go. You're walking me through this one. First step. Well, it should equal 0, and I don't have an equal 0, so let's start there. Put it equals 0. Then, what am I doing? A, B, and C. A is 2. B is? C is? Okay. A, B, C, check. Then what am I doing? X equals big fraction bar. I would suggest, just so you know, if you don't have this stuff written down, you are turning these in tomorrow. So if you're not writing down what I'm writing down, I don't know. Pay attention to what I'm doing. You'll do a negative sign. You'll do parentheses, and what will go in there? A 1, which is B. Then you'll do a plus or minus, and you'll do a really big square root. Then parentheses, 1 squared, minus 4, parentheses 2, parentheses 2, all over 2, parentheses 2. Okay, now I see you guys grabbing your calculators, which is good, but don't forget to bring that negative 1, plus or minus. Plug in what, do not plug in the square root. That's going to be an issue. Don't plug in the square root, so plug in what's underneath it. So parentheses, 1, close it squared, minus 4, parentheses 2, parentheses 2. It's a negative number. So you'll write negative 15, and then you'll put a 4 in. Now, when you go to simplify it, what's the square root of negative 15? You can't do it, so your answer is no solution. Your answer is no solution. If you got stuck on your